right, welcome everybody to another episode of Hanging Out Right with Chuck Rainey. I'm John Martinez, and we have two very special guests today. Uh, we're going to be talking about R.E.S.P.E.C.T. Chuck, what is that talking about?
It's talking about being respected
That's
when we
right.
go into the workplace. And a lot of times we're not, so like it's very interesting, like I was mentioning earlier. I've been in quite a few bands where a woman was one of the musicians or the leader. And I've realized what they had to go through in order to maintain their position in the band and what they had to go through. Also to the different kind of scenarios, because there are two different sides to the coin. You know, I just met Jennifer. I've been knowing Divinity for quite some time now, and I've watched her come up in the business. I watched her start very young and come up into where she is right now. So, John, before I go any further, why don't you lay the land for Divinity and for
Yeah,
uh,
absolutely.
Jennifer?
Absolutely. So, Divinity Roxx is a bass player, an MC, a producer. She's from Atlanta. She's probably best known as the bass player for Beyonce and her all-female band. She got her start playing with Victor Wooten and Black Girls Rock Orchestra on BET. She was, I believe, you're the MD, and of course,
Oh
she's
no, I'm
established.
the bass player on that gig.
You're just a bass player, okay? And she established herself, like a great solo career now. So we're really excited to have her here. And Jennifer Perryman is a singer, songwriter, producer from Dallas, and she's released several solo album projects, as well as been featured on projects by like The Getaway, Heading West, the Peyton Prince Project, and DJ Face, and many commercial jingles. He's like a very popular session singer in the area. So we're really happy to have them both here and to get their perspectives on what equality looks like. So let me throw out the first question for you, Miss Divinity.
Oh, I get the first question. Okay.
Yeah, you get. Well, we'll take turns. We're just gonna have a conversation. No biggie. But um, how did you get started in bass playing? No, I'm just kidding. That's not what this podcast. I think the question is what. I think what would the country or what would the music business look like if our gender equality goals were met?
What gender equality goals do you mean?
Well, that's a good question, right? So oftentimes I think the conversation is kind of framed in like what is our measure? When would we say we're equal? A lot of people say it's pay, right? But I don't think that's the only metric. So I would ask, so then how can we measure equality? Is it opportunities? How would you frame it? Because I don't think money's the only issue.
I think equality is an interesting word. I think that what most people who are not in power would prefer is some sort of equity. We are, as far as reaching our goals, you mean as far as men and women uh, being able to operate in this industry comparably when it comes to positions. We see more women in executive level positions in the industry. When we see more women in production levels of the industry. There are so many levels in this industry, especially the music industry. And so I believe that I don't know when we'll be able to say, okay, everything is great and now we're all equal and everybody's happy.
Yeah.
We just live in this world where there has to be somebody on the top and there has to be somebody on the bottom, and the people on the top treat the people on the bottom jacked up. You know what I mean? So we're all just trying to be the people on the top. And we think that when we get there, I'm not going to be that way. I'm not going to treat people that way when I get there. But it's just sort of like this part of human nature that we all need to address, about this need for somebody to have power over other people. What is that need? When you really get into it. But that's something completely different. I hope I answered your question.
You did in a way. I did understand what you said. Excuse me. I've always noticed when there were women in the band around men. Like I spent the last 8 years working with Marlena Shaw, who was the female singer in Count Basie's band.
Mm-hmm.
But she's been around men for 8 years before, and also she has her own records. But in working with her, I find that being friends with her, there are some conversations that she has where she had to put up with a whole lot of male, how can I put it, a whole lot of male, too much male attention toward her other than what she was there for. And she learned how to do that. And it's kind of hard when you're on a gig with someone to really, unless you're on a plane sitting next to them, to explain what they mean by that. But I already know what they mean by that because I'm a man and I know how men think. I know how, and no matter what level it is, it's very difficult for a woman, to me, to receive equal respect or respect to her, like we do like we do each other for men.
Mm.
It's always amazing to see a woman really. Now I'm talking about musicians now, to really be able to play and to function and to put up with a whole lot of the things that men don't have to put up with. I'm trying to be clear without using words that I don't want to use.
Yeah. I
But
get it.
y'all know what I mean. So like
Sure.
in watching, I know that whatever it is that you do is very, very important. And you have a skill set, both you ladies do. There's always a man blocking the way. Uh, Now, when I say that, I'm talking against men that way because like I've always felt that way. I've always felt that way, that this woman is a great player. She just needs to be left alone from outside attention. But now sometimes a lot of women get involved in the band for attention. And
I see Jennifer shaking her head.
so Divinity, I definitely hear what you say. I've watched your career almost from the beginning. I think it's just awesome.
You know, I was looking at old base camp photos and I found photos from the first camp. I didn't realize I met you at the very first camp.
Yeah, it was the very first one.
Yes. Oh my
And
God. We were so cute and young and
you were the only female there.
I was. I was. Yeah.
You were the only female there.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
I
I'm
don't.
so used to being in spaces where I'm the only female that I don't make a deal out of it unless somebody else makes a deal out of it. I don't even recognize it. It's just like being black. You know, I can be in a room full of white people, and of course, I'm going to notice that I'm black, the only black person, or oh, I'm the only woman, but it's a fleeting thought. It's not something I focus on and that I make a big deal.
Yeah.
I don't know. I grew up and I'm going to stop talking after this. I grew up with a dad who never made me feel like being a girl meant that I couldn't do anything. He never, I mean, my dad had me out there working with him on cars and opening up my electronics with my screwdriver and going to games and different things like that because that's what he was into and I was his kid. And so he was like, this is what I like to do and this is what I'm going to share about what I like with you.
Wow.
You know? So
That's
I
trippy.
yeah.
That seems to be a common thread, I think, through so far in all three podcasts that we noticed the role that parents played in people's lives, and their attitude about succeeding. And when a parent made it like as Chuck says, it's a never mind. Like don't even think about that stuff. Just do what you do, and you're not told that you can't. It's amazing what you end up doing. You know, it's pretty cool. Your dad was cool. Jennifer, you haven't said nothing, so I'm gonna have to put you on the spot. I've worked with Jennifer for many years, and and we've been on many bands where she was the only female, and something I think that I noticed every time we worked together was that, and Jennifer, please don't take this as any kind of slam. But you always, like all the dudes, seem to treat you like just one of the dudes, one of the cats. It was never like, wow, she's hot, even though she's pretty. We all know you're pretty. We all know you're talented. But no one, I don't think, ever treated you like, objectified you. I don't know if it's a vibe. What was your magic? What's your secret sauce?
Well, I mean, I just always tried to be good. You know, I seriously, I just wanted to. I had such admiration with people that I was playing with, and the people that I listened to growing up, and I wanted to be good, and it never really was a guy girl thing. I never really thought of it that way. I agree with you, Divinity. It was just kind of like, sometimes you're in the room and you're the only girl there, and it just happened to be what it was. And no, I just I don't know.
How did you do with unwanted attention from guys?
Well, I've been married a long time.
That'll do it.
So, that helps, and I think, I don't know. I just tried to maybe make it about the music, I know I'm just kind of a local musician type, but I always wanted to be as good as I could possibly be, and try to represent myself, or at least my part of the music, with integrity. And that was kind of, that's the kind of been the way it is. So
I think you had a real interesting perspective, and Chuck touched on it a little earlier when we were talking about sometimes, because I do know your work ethic. I know you work your butt off, and you're super talented. And that you were saying that, sometimes women would use their sexuality to be lazy. I hate to use those words, but those are your words. Can you unpack that for us a little bit?
It is a private conversation. Hey,
well, let me put it this way. I think there are levels of work ethic, and I think, I mean, when you get on the level that, Chuck, that you've been, and where you are at Divinity, I mean, that's a different level. It's a whole different thing. And but in a more local type thing, oftentimes the bands, they have this sort of thing that they want so that they can get gigs, if that makes sense. And then so there's people in a situation where it's not really about music, and it's not the most creative situation in the world. And I can't believe, it is what it is, and it's not always, the best situation. And I think there are people who love music, and they love what they do. Let's not even take it out of music.
Thank you.
There are people that love what they do, and they work hard at it. And then there are people who don't care, or they may have different levels of interest in what they're involved in. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So.
It does make sense. I always look at, like, I know a few women that are very good musicians, but they have a tendency on their business card and when they're in person to show too much leg, or to sexually posture too much unnecessarily around the guys. And what happens is it causes the guys who are not married or don't have a girlfriend to get probably too involved or to force something too involved, you know. I've noticed that several times. And the female students that I've had over the years, you know, like I never mention it because I don't know how to go there. Like where to wear the bass, over the breast, under the breast, or where, you know, I always think about things because I'm a guy. I know how guys think. I know how guys are. And I've seen a few women that I've, you know, that I know who show too much sexuality, too much leg, and they do it because.
Wait a minute. I'm going to interrupt you, Chuck.
I'm waiting for somebody to say something.
Nothing wrong with showing a little leg. Well, this is music business. It's entertainment. If you got it, you better know how to use it. Now, I'm not against that. I think that women are sexy and beautiful, and everybody loves to see a woman who is strong and powerful doing something amazing because there is an appeal to that. Nobody wants a little weak little woman. They want somebody strong. Even, you know, like that's what people want to see. They want to see women doing beautiful things. And it's amazing when you have a woman who is talented and can play and she gonna show you a little leg. What?
I think that's the key right there. When it's just about sex.
Who's not gonna want to go see that?
Yeah. When it's just about sex,
put on some shorts on the stage now. Hey.
Right. I think you touched on it. If you got the talent,
listen,
then do what you got to do. But if you got no talent, then it comes off as cheap.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have talent, that's all you have. But I mean, that's not just the music industry. That's the world we live in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Everybody is using what they have to get where they want.
Mm-hmm.
You know, use what you got to get what you want. Hey, there's a song. There's some songs about
There's
that.
a song.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like it does become frustrating when you are a woman in the industry and you are doing all the things, you know, you're playing, you're shedding, you're interacting, you're in love with this music, you're hanging out with other people who love this music, you're learning, you're growing. It's frustrating when that there are some people who continue to objectify you and who don't respect and who don't recognize the talent in you because they're so caught up in everything else, in your sexuality, in the way you look, in the way you make them feel. But you know, you do want people, any all of us talented women in this industry want everybody to recognize us for our talent. The beauty and the hotness is the icing on the cake. Like, you know, I mean, it is. Men objectify themselves. How many album covers with men with their shirts open and their hot little bodies all sweating and everybody want to, you know, like, so I get where Chuck is coming from, though, with the whole conversation. There are challenges to being a woman in this world. When I walk out of my door, somebody's going to challenge me in some way, shape, or form by doing the smallest little thing because I'm a woman, some small gesture that is supposed to make me feel like I'm lesser than you. But I know who I am. I know what I bring to the table. I know what I'm capable of. I don't fall for it. I know how to use my sexuality to benefit me because I have that. You got them green, pretty eyes, Chuck. I know you've been using them eyes your whole life. You know what I mean?
I hear that all the time about Chuck, too.
I mean, come on. Use what you got to get what you want.
I want to thank you for saying that to me because I do understand what you're saying. You got to use what you got because it's tough out here.
What?
And of course, a lot of times you use certain things that you don't know you're using, but you know that you're using it. You know, so thanks for cutting me off there and making me adding another chapter to what I was trying to say. I'm glad that you said though that you understand, you know, what I said. You know, about it. But thanks for straightening me out.
That's awesome. Well, let me throw another question out there real quick, and then we keep this conversation moving. But Divinity, earlier you said
Uh-oh.
that we could use more women in leadership positions, even, and more producers. Uh, so, what, in your opinion, and this goes to you, Jennifer, as well, what in your and Chuck always talks about this, by the way.
Mm.
What, in your opinion, are we missing out on
Oh.
by not maximizing the talents of women?
You are missing out on some beautiful music.
Mm.
You're missing out on some beautiful art. You know, Terry Lynn Carrington was talking about this in another chat we were talking about. And one of the things that she recognized is, or that she brought to light, was that the women who she saw who were successful and who were out there and who were making a name for themselves, they all had one thing in common. They have this A personality. They're some go-getters. They're gonna fight and fight. They're fighters. They're tough. They're not gonna take it lying down. They're gonna push their way through the door. They have a goal. But what about women who don't have that personality and who are extremely talented and they get overlooked? She was like, I want to see women, all types of women, fill these positions and have opportunities to fill these positions, because otherwise we're missing out on another interpretation of art that we haven't experienced yet, you know?
What do you think, Jen? That's good.
I like that. That sounds great. That sounds great.
Every time that I've had, when I've had the opportunity to put a band together, I've always tried to put a woman in the band, especially as on keyboards. And every time that I did, I was greatly satisfied with what I heard and
Mm.
how it made me feel. You know, like I'm that kind of a guy. My mother had 11 sisters and one brother, which means I had 11 aunts, you know, along with thousands of first cousins. But the thing is, I've watched all the women in my life. They do bring something else to the table. And musically, you know, like I've always felt it with the woman in the band and the keyboards, mainly, you know, the way that they play. Now, you know, of course, I have not made that much to do about it other than personally. I do like the feel that women bring to the bandstand. And Divinity, you're right, because sometimes if the woman is sexual, is sexy, it does help for whatever the help may be. I'll say this, and I'll say this publicly, and John, we might want to take this up. When I was working with Aretha, there was a segment during a 2-hour show where she sat at the piano and did a medley, just herself, all by herself, playing the piano and singing. And I remember always looking forward to that because she was a beautiful woman, I thought, very, very pretty. You know, and the way she would just roll on the piano seat as she was playing and whatever. Sex, like it did definitely, I guess, help my attraction for hearing her sing. But as I say that, the voice is monumental and I have my respect for Aretha. You know, but I know the women got to use what they got to use like it is. Like you said, D, it's rough out here. You got to take advantage of everything that you got if you got it.
Wait. I don't want to leave this conversation with that being the theme, okay? Because there are some real structural changes that need to take place in this industry and in this world when it comes to women and their role in it. You know, we do need to see more women in executive positions, because I feel like women have different decision making mechanisms, you know, and they help balance out how everybody sees the world. We can't just look at the world through the eyes of men when half of the population are women.
Mm.
What is that? I mean, even in the numbers, nature has made us equitable. It's equity happening here. So why can't we emulate that and have an equal amount of men and women, or some variation thereof, in places that, you know, especially when it comes to policy making, in politics and in government, and those really big things that affect so many people on so many levels? How come we don't have more women in those types of positions when they could be so effective?
Well,
What's
like the
the answer,
song
Jim?
goes, everything must change, and it does. It is starting to change now. It is
It
starting.
is indeed.
You know,
Next year's going to be an interesting year.
I
yeah,
agree.
it will. I just want to throw this out there from a historical perspective, just to throw something out there. So like, yeah, Chuck mentioned earlier, I'm Puerto Rican, and the original inhabitants of the island were Taino Indians, and actually they inhabited most of the Caribbean, Jamaica, Trinidad, Tobago, the Dominican Republic, all that, right? And that society was actually led by women because there's not a bunch of big game on those islands. So the fact that men were hunters meant nothing. The women grew the food, and because they grew the food, they were the ones in charge. So but that also explains why so many of the Latino or Latinx, whatever they call it now, communities are so, the mom runs the house. I mean, she's like the decision maker. It's very female dominant. I think it's just a funny thing to
It's that way in the Black community too.
So here's a question. So, and Jen, you need to speak up. So I'm gonna throw this to you. What do you see that tells us we have room to improve our gender equality?
Well, I agree with you guys. It is changing, and I think that's great. And yeah, there is more room for improvement and more room for, as long as honestly, I don't know if I'm the person to ask about this stuff. I'm not good at this.
There you are. You got an opinion.
This is what, I've got some weird opinions about.
Let's talk about it though. Let's be weird.
That's what I'm saying. Come on.
Well, I believe that there's so much corruption, especially in government and like, as much as I would love to see a female president and would love to see more women in power and things like that, as long as they're principled, because there's a lot of people on the top who I don't think are very principled. It's like John Lennon said, the world is run by sociopaths. And I'm not trying to be dark. I'm not trying to be all dark, but it's just, you've got good people and you've got very strong and aggressive people. And a lot of times strong and aggressive people will do what somebody else might not do to get where they want to get. And which I love your point, Divinity, when you said a lot of these women who are type A and they're go-getters, and then there are types who aren't, they don't have that type of personality. But maybe they are principled and they have a lot to offer. But I don't know, man. I think there's room for change in just about everything. I think it's real hard for me to concentrate on the female male thing when I don't even know what's going to happen next year with the economy. I mean, it's like, there's some big, huge stuff coming down the pike. And I just hope businesses are still open. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't know if that's an answer to your question. I'm just trying to be honest and and maybe this is stepping off of kind of what we're talking about. I think it's important for us to all be kind to one another and accepting of one another. But that's like, of course, right?
Basic.
So.
No, it's all that's good, Jan. That's good.
I don't know. I didn't mean to not give you a complete, well said answer, but that's just.
Well,
the way I feel.
Not to like preach at anybody, but this morning I read Proverbs 19:22. It says, "What is desired in a man is kindness, and a poor man is better than a liar." And I think that kind of speaks a little bit to what you're saying. We need more kindness, and less greed, maybe. Because I think, William Duvall, a friend of ours, he's the lead singer for Alice in Chains. He's out of, I think he's from Atlanta too. He used to be in the punk rock scene out there.
I know you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah, William. And so we had talked to him when we interviewed him for our book. And one of the things he said is, if you want to, you got to be kind of crazy to want to run this country, or actually anybody who gets on stage is a little bit crazy.
Yeah, for sure.
Because if you can stand in front of 20,000 people and do your thing, you're up there because you got to be a little bit egotistical, and you're obviously up there trying to work something out. And you're working out in front of all these people.
You got to work it out.
You're trying to work something out, man. Because to get in front of that many people, and then expose your heart in front of them and do your thing. Yeah, you're working something out, but it takes a special kind of crazy to want to run a country. A little bit.
Or run a huge corporation. I mean, the amount of responsibility. I mean, so some of the biggest corporations right now, like YouTube, that's female run. She's CEO. The 23andMe, her sister runs that. I mean, that's just a couple, but I mean, just the sheer amount of responsibility to try to make that budget happen and all that kind of stuff. That's it does take a certain type of personality to lead people, right? Like to inspire people to follow you and, get behind your goal and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Casey, go ahead, Chuck. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I feel that things are changing. It's just that I've seen a whole lot of men disrespect maybe sometimes it's behind her back.
Yeah.
And I don't really think that that's necessary. Now, I do like women, like I'm not, I do like looking at them. I appreciate the touch. Like I said, I had 11 aunts. That's on one side of the family. I didn't mention my dad's side of the family. But the whole thing is, like, I found that in the music, I find behind a woman's back, or even in Japan in particular, that a woman does not have equal respect in the band. They put her to the side some kind of way, or they say things to her that are not necessary. And although they are good musicians, and I've always just felt a little differently because women make me feel good in the music, by the way they solo, the way they look, the way they smell. This is all a man's thing now, but the whole thing, the presence of a woman has always been very important to me because women have been in my life all from birth, including my mother and my sister, and I knew my grandparents and my great-grandparents. Now, of course, they're gone, but I had a chance to feel what women bring to singing and what they bring to the field that makes me want to play. And I just sort of kind of, and I've gone out of the way sometimes to mention to band members, that they're going too far. They're talking the wrong way about this bandmate. I haven't done it often, but I do think about it all the time. I've always watched people in the business, or women in the business, succeed, knowing that they're going through certain things in their head. That they handle it. Some don't handle it well, and although they're good musicians, but some don't handle it well. But then some do handle it real well. I found it very interesting hearing Divinity talk about a girl band, all the girls, and she looked like, she was very happy to this too, telling how girls, what goes on with girls and the blah, blah, blah.
We have fun.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Somebody said with the original Beyonce band. They had been working with Beyonce through a number of bands that she's had that were all male. And they've said that you guys are closer as friends than the all male bands. You guys actually go hang out with each other after the gig. You guys do things, you guys call each other and go, you know, go sightseeing or go to dinner or go to a club or go to a jam session. You guys all do that together. Whereas a lot of the male bands after the show, everybody just goes to their room or goes and does their own thing.
Right.
But we created this community that we just kept being a part of, you know, as much as we could, you know.
That's funny. Me, Chuck and I, when we were talking about this particular podcast, that did kind of come up in our conversation. Like, I wonder what the dynamics were in that situation, right? Remember, Chuck? We were like, did they like each other? You know, because sometimes guys, they'll be in a band with, like Duke Ellington was known for like getting guys in a band that didn't like each other because he liked that tension on stage.
I think with anybody, you grow, you're a family, you know, you argue with your family.
Oh, yeah.
Hey everyone, my name is Jerry Robert and I'm the publisher at Black Card Books, and I'm telling you, we have just published this book, The Tune of Success, Unmasking Your Genius, by two musical geniuses who have played bass and played drums and contributed to lots of different albums, playing with Steely Dan, Quincy Jones, Aretha Franklin. I mean, these are two legends in the music industry, and if you've ever wondered about how you break into the music industry, and it's a business, it goes well beyond just talent. It's a business. This book will help you do it, and there's no book like it, and that's why we at Black Card Books could not be happier to have published this book. And if you are interested, or you know somebody who's interested in the music business, get yourself a copy and get them a copy right away. Guys, we are all excited about this. We know this is going to become an international bestseller, and it's going to help a lot of people go to the next level in the music business.